they are not the most aesthetic, like sexy looking systems, but so our goal really is to give function its shining moment.
Welcome to Talk Clutter to Me, the show where we're going behind the scenes on all things organizing and bringing you real life situations on what it takes to really get organized. Today, I have a very special guest with me, Melanie from I Speak Organized. Hello, Melanie. How are you doing?
What's up, Amanda? I'm doing well. How are you?
I am doing wonderful. I was so excited to get you on the books because I have been really looking forward to this topic ever since I met you at the ASPO conference a few months ago.
Absolutely. I am ready to dive in, and I've been looking forward to this day as well. Can't wait.
Wonderful. So Melanie, why don't you just take a second and I would love you to tell our listeners a little bit about yourself.
Sure. Yeah. So I am Melanie, as Amanda said, from I Speak Organized, and I own a home organizing company in the Pacific Northwest. We're based in Washington State on the West Coast, best coast. And we work with hardworking families and professionals. We do a lot of life transitions, everything from moving, death, and divorce. That's kind of our wheelhouse. So we just expanded our team recently within the last few months and going into 2024 so that we can do a lot more quick turnaround jobs for folks who are moving, in particular, packing, unpacking, downsizing, and making it sort of a turnkey experience. So that is what our in-person business does. And then I Speak Organized also has a huge arsenal of resources for folks who are looking to DIY in their space and just need the sort of philosophy and process to do it themselves. And also folks who are looking to take that knowledge to the next level and actually start their own professional organizing companies. I have a YouTube channel and a podcast that is primarily geared towards those folks who want to take their decluttering and organizing enthusiasm and channel it into an income stream for themselves. So that's kind of in a nutshell what we do.
That is amazing. There's so many things that you do. As most business owners, we are always doing like
Right.
50 million things. I think my team
Right.
cringes every time I say, "Ooh, I've got another great idea." I think my team cringes every time, as well as my husband. So,
Yeah, because they
um,
know you're going to do it.
they know you're gonna do it. That's the problem. And
Yeah.
my husband will cringe because he's like, "Oh, not another thing." Not another
Mm-hmm.
But so tell me a little bit how you got into organizing.
Yeah, that's a great question. I'll keep it short and sweet to the best of my ability. So I grew up a very disorganized person, struggling with executive function. I was definitely one of those kids growing up in school that I really had to fight to get good grades because time management in particular and organization of my schedule and planning. I was a big procrastinator. I used to miss a lot of deadlines and appointments and things like that. So I was kind of a fly by the seat of your pants, thrive, quote unquote, in chaos type of person for a long time. And then two things happened. One was I had a friend whose mom was diagnosed with cancer about, gosh, it must have been about 10 years ago now. And she needed to secure funds for extra treatment. And so they were getting ready to appraise their house for refinancing and they needed help clearing it out. It wasn't a hoarding situation, but it was a chronic accumulation situation. Their basement was full of all kinds of stuff and they needed it cleared out. So my boyfriend, now husband at the time, and a bunch of friends of ours went and cleaned house for a whole weekend. And through that process, I learned that I have a knack for doing those types of things and for helping people. And so it was my introduction to professional organizing. And then the second thing that happened was I had kids years later. And that's when I really decided that I didn't want to be in the job that I was currently in at the time, which was sucking a lot of my time away from my family, particularly on weekends. And so I knew that professional home organizing was a potential career. And I was at a point where I was ready to take the leap. I thought, I'm on maternity leave. What the hell? May as well go for it. And that's what happened. And through that process, I Speak Organized was born.
Wow. Yeah. See, and I think it's very interesting to know that for most of us, it's not just this one epiphany moment. It's kind of
Mhm.
like a few things that happen that make us realize, hey, this might be a thing. So that's really interesting that you had that kind of journey as well.
Oh, yeah.
So our topic today is all about ADHD. And for those of you who don't know, Melanie Summers was also a keynote speaker at the ASPO conference. ASPO is the American Society for Professional Organizers.
Yeah, it is.
And I had one of the best times ever. I try to go to a lot of conferences and educating opportunities, and this was really one of my favorite things that I went to. I got to meet so many new people, including Melanie. But Melanie's talk was all about ADHD. Now, I've never been officially diagnosed, but I feel like as a business owner, I have become more ADHD like, or those symptoms that I thought were just me being crazy have turned up more since being a professional organizer. And I think it's really interesting that so many people actually can relate to that feeling of, do I actually have ADHD? So I'm going to give you the floor to talk about ADHD and kind of in your mind what that looks like compared to neurotypical people.
Sure. Yeah. First I want to just say that I also relate to you in that way. I think that a lot of it for many of my clients in particular, it has to do with them being parents, moms in particular. Our attention is fractured. Just that's just the nature of having children, particularly young children. I have a 3 and a 5 year old, and I know you have children as well. So it definitely mirrors ADHD. And I think our society also lends itself to a more short attention span, fractured attention. We're trying to do multiple things at once because hustle culture is just part of our society. And so we're always trying to see how much we can maximize our time, do as many things as possible in the shortest amount of time. You know, Amazon's 2 days or less. It's just kind of the way our culture is woven together currently. So when you actually are clinically diagnosed with ADHD, it exacerbates those symptoms tenfold. So the biggest thing to understand about somebody with ADHD, and I will try to remember to send you the book so that you can put it in your show notes for people. It was written by a professional organizer. The title is escaping me, so I'm going to move on. But in the book, one of the first things that the author talks about is the fact that folks that have ADHD, which stands for obviously attention deficit hyperactivity disorder, is that they need to refocus on a single task 6 times as often as somebody who is neurotypical. So it could be a very simple task like taking a shower and realizing that they need a new razor. And the razor backstock that they have is down the hall in the linen closet. And for them to get from the bathroom to the linen closet to be able to take a shower can be difficult for somebody that truly has ADHD because there's so many different distractions along the way, and their brain is prone to latch onto those distractions, which is difficult to then refocus and say, no, I'm going to get this razor so I can go take a freaking shower. Like that's the whole thing. So doing that all day long throughout your life is exhausting. And so there's just a lot of manifestation of things that happen for folks with ADHD that make executive function and organizing your space and your time very difficult. So, some of the key things that we as organizers help ADHD clients with are spatial organization, trying to clear flat surfaces and stuff like that. And then also helping them regulate their emotions. That's really one of the most overlooked symptoms of ADHD is somebody getting very frustrated with something that should seemingly be very easy, but to them there's too many steps, it's too complex, or it's something that's boring and not something that they are wanting to focus on. They really want to kind of dial their mental energy into things that they actually care about and not all of these finicky little processes. So the organizer can work kind of on their behalf to get things done that they rather would not do. So they kind of use this as an ongoing resource, which is very helpful. Neurotypical clients can typically we can set up a system for them and walk away, and they're usually able to maintain it. But ADHD clients get bored with those systems over time. They want to revamp them and do different things. And so they're constantly bringing us back to refresh the space and try something new so that it becomes novel and interesting and something they're willing to work through again without getting overwhelmed. So those are just, there's a million things, but those are like some of the biggest pain points to be aware of.
Right. And I can vouch, my husband is diagnosed ADHD, and even for myself, the December podcast is all about productivity and time management. So if you guys have not listened to that, please go back and listen to the December podcast. And I talk about the things that hinder our productivity. And one of those, we want to make sure our neuro status. Are we ADHD? Are we neurotypical or neurodivergent? And that's going to help affect that. But even with our time management resources, myself, I change. And it's the weirdest thing that sometimes having my to-do list on my tablet makes the most sense and it's amazing. But then after a couple months, my brain doesn't like it. My brain gets bored with it and I'm not productive anymore. And then pen and paper work. And then I have to switch. So I'm constantly switching my time management things to be productive while also keeping my brain engaged.
Absolutely. And I don't think there's anything wrong with that at all, and it's the physical clutter. That's why I mentioned clearing flat surfaces, because the physical clutter is distracting. The best thing that people with ADHD can do to get organized is to downsize their belongings and get rid of all the extra little bits and pieces that float around their space. So then you can set up a system, ditch it, and try something new. And there's absolutely nothing wrong with that.
Yes. What are some things you've done on past jobs that have been really successful for your ADHD clients?
Great question. There's a few things systems that we implement that work really well for ADHD clients. They are not the most aesthetic, like sexy looking systems, but so our goal really is to give function its shining moment. So a lot of our systems are actually open. They're not behind closed doors. There are different preferences for folks. There are some people that really do get overstimulated by the visual clutter and need stuff behind closed doors. But I have found that the majority of our ADHD clients feel the opposite. They have issues with object permanence. So if they can't see it, it doesn't exist. And so if something goes behind a closed door, I actually have clients that get very nervous about that. They don't want us to set up systems in cabinets or behind closet doors because they know themselves well enough that they're just going to pull everything out. And in the kitchen, for instance, they're going to take everything out of the kitchen cupboards and put them on the countertops, put them on the kitchen island because they don't want to forget that they have something, or they're going to be buying multiples of them because they know that one set of measuring cups is going to go missing. So we got to have 4 others as a backup because I'm going to need to use it when I need to use it. So what we end up doing is setting in the open systems up. So that looks like open shelving with bins or baskets that have some sort of layer that's transparent with a label so that everything has a very clear and easy home. We ditch lids. So we use drop front bins, which have that like U shape in the front where you can put things away with just one hand or one action. That is what I coined the one action test. So if a storage system is going to be able to work for an ADHD client, they have to be able to put the thing away easier than pulling it out. Pulling it out, the motivation is there because they need that thing. The motivation is gone once they have the thing. And to put it back, there's like anti-motivation. You know what I mean? So putting it back has to be stupid easy. So we ditch lids and we make it so that you can put things back with just one hand as much as possible. So we also install bars in bedrooms. Like it's hard to describe, but they're like they look like pipes, and you can buy them on Amazon. And we screw them directly into the wall. They stick out from the wall, probably a good 6 to 12 inches, so that we can create hanging systems for bags, shoes, clothing overflow, things that would normally clutter up a desk or a surface space, a flat surface space. It's given a home on the wall. And then we take closet doors off completely and put them in the garage. I had one ADHD client that actually, she just built her home 2 or 3 years ago. And after working with us, decided that she wasn't going to put closet doors on any of the closets in her home because it was just such a game changer. I know. So
I love that so much.
yeah, yeah. So no closet doors, no lids, make it super easy to put away, and then use that vertical wall space. We mount everything to the wall. We put, even if it's just as simple as nailing some nails to the wall so that you have a simple place to hook, put things up and hook them on the wall.
Right.
Keep it super simple.
That is so helpful and so true, because even me, I've experienced the same exact thing. For us, ADHD clients need that semi-transparent bin. Everything needs to be labeled. Some of our clients prefer images. So my label maker, I will, if I'm using my phone, I can download photos. So like on my son's bin, I downloaded a picture of Bluey and I put
Mhm.
it on the label, the picture of Bluey, and then I wrote Bluey next to it so that we could just read the word. But he knows that Bluey goes in that bin, right? And he's
Yeah.
3 going on 4. Um, we've ditched a lot of my listeners know that I am a huge minimalist in all areas of my life, but specifically clothes. And we ditched the dresser because it wasn't working for us and my
Mhm.
husband. So we went to straight up hanging. We have a hanging thing. We actually don't have closets in my house, really. So that's not too much of a problem.
Mhm.
But it's right out in the open. You can see everything. And again,
Yes.
labeling everything, because if it's not labeled, you don't know it exists in our house.
Yeah,
Um,
exactly.
but pegboards on walls, we do a lot of sword fighting, and so we have a wall of swords. And I'll
You
put a
do.
picture. But we have a bunch of swords. We have a warhammer that we'll play sword fights with, and they're in my son's room, but I put a pegboard on the wall. So
Mhm.
he even knows where they're all supposed to go and be put away.
Mhm.
Oh my God, it makes my heart so happy. And when you mentioned the one hand test, I 100% agree. It needs to be able to be done with one hand. We
Mhm.
go one step further, and I call it our 1, 2, 3 rule. So if it follows the 1, 2, 3 rule, it's pretty darn close to an ideal organizing system
Mhm.
in most regards. So can you get it with one hand, or can you put it away with one hand? Is it 2 steps from where it's being used? And does it take 3 seconds to put away?
Mhm.
If you can hit on all 3 of those things, we have a really great system that is functional. It's not always the prettiest, but it's extremely functional for that person, which means they can't be needing to get a step stool out all of the time to get to things they need frequently, because that's taking more than 3 seconds to be able to put it away.
Yeah, that's brilliant. I love that. I'm totally going to steal it to
Yes.
just like supercharge the organizing system for clients. They're going to love that.
Oh my God. It's so, and it really opens your eye up to all the possibilities. And then you understand why, as organizers, sometimes a lazy Susan works best opposed to bins. And sometimes once you see this rule and you start looking at your space, you'll start to see why sometimes product is really, really helpful in organizing homes. Do
Right.
you ever deal with clients who are ADHD, but that don't have product budget? And so they're ADHD, you still need to help organize, but zero money for product.
Right. Yeah, we do. And so what we'll do in that case, it depends on what we're walking into as well. Because what I have found is that, especially with ADHD folks, one of the superpowers that they possess is creativity. And so they often will have come up with outside the box solutions already that they're just not implementing correctly, or they've abandoned or whatever. And so we can like rework it, tweak it, whatever. And they often have product on hand, especially because they've hired a professional organizer. It is a growing industry, as you know. But people that hire us have knowledge of us before they hire us, because they see the value of what we bring to the table, or they've already hired an organizer and it didn't work out, or they need, somebody new, whatever. So sometimes they'll have product on hand which we can repurpose and reuse. We can use clear shoe boxes or regular shoe boxes if they have random collections of things. Cereal boxes cut into sections to create segmentation in drawers. You can really use Pinterest as a great inspiration place for stuff like that if you want to DIY it yourself. But the other thing that we will do, and that's included in our packages, is a budget for Dollar Tree products. So every client has that included up to like, I don't know, 50 or $60, and you can get 50 or 60 products to then get a space started. And if they want to go beyond that and get investment product pieces, bins and dividers and things like that, they can. But Dollar Store, especially in the last 5 years, has really upped their game when it comes to that type of thing, especially the smaller bins. So we can organize kitchen drawers, office drawers really well. We can get those laundry baskets that are the perfect size for sorting things. And it really kind of helps streamline the process. And we can at least implement some product without it breaking the bank for the client, because they can afford an extra 50 or $60, but we usually throw it in just to make it easier anyway.
Oh my God, I love that idea. And yet again, sorry team, but I have ideas coming off of just that one idea. Advance team.
They're all going, no.
I know, right? They're all behind the scenes. And what's so wonderful is organizing the way you organize and the way we organize. It's function is our number one priority. And I think people look us up on Instagram as professional organizers, and they expect this high level type of organizing all the time. Brand new spice jars, the bamboo dividers every single time. And at least for me, most of my clients are not that kind of client. As much as I like people who do have a large product budget or is willing to get rid of a lot of things, I really do love the people who are neurodivergent, because I know they're going to appreciate the space so much more, and we're customizing that to them specifically. So what does the kind of clientele look for you specifically? Because I know Instagram makes it look like it's all perfect and pretty all the time.
Right. It does. And I mean, if you go to my Instagram profile, I have very few examples of organized spaces. And some people might hear that and think, what? Like, you're a professional organizer? What do you post on your account? And for me, my role in this space really has been to help shift people's mindset around organizing and to educate them. So there is this imbalance online, particularly on platforms like TikTok and Instagram, where we have these aspirational accounts, and I love them and I get a lot of ideas, and I use a lot of those higher end systems in my own home. I invest in them because I'm an organizing nerd. I'm sure, like plenty of people can relate, but for people that, you have to know what you're doing and how to use those systems, and you have to have thought through your 1, 2, 3 process like you do. And that doesn't come naturally to most folks. The way that the organizing brain works is not how everybody's brain works. And so that's an important thing to keep in mind. And so I find my clients really, they either don't know how to use a system, or they don't know that it exists, and therefore they're not interested in that. They just know that they have a problem that they need fixed. And so my role is to try to educate them on how to fix it in at the root. Like, what is the reason why they're holding on to all this stuff? Is it fear based, which 95% of the time it is, because they think they're going to lose something, or they have a history of, something really terrible happening after they've gotten rid of something that they, should have kept because they didn't have an organized system for maintaining it. And it got lost, or whatever it happens to be. So they're often at the root of it is fear. And so my job is to help them see past that, set up a better system. And it doesn't always have to be with product. It can be just a simple habit shift, or there's various different ways that we can go about it, and we can talk about that later at length. But it's really just to get past the fear and then educate yourself on how to maintain your space better.
Yeah. And I think that's really important for everybody to understand, right? Potential clients, but it's important for, I think, us organizers out there to understand that it's like, it doesn't always have to be perfect, beautiful spaces all the time. Yes,
Right.
that's what you see like the high level organizers doing, but if that's not what you are always doing, make it functional, speak to that, speak to your specific strengths instead of always trying to make everything perfect on Instagram.
Yeah, and you're going to do your clients a disservice at that point as well, because that's not and you know this about me, I'm also a business coach. I think I mentioned that at the beginning of the podcast, that, and I'm working with a lot of people wanting to start organizing businesses. That's one of the number one questions that I get asked is, how do you deal with product? And what's the budget like? And I'm like, you need to get that information from the client and determine what their definition of done is, because it's not going to be up to the standard of what you see online. It's just not. That is one tiny sliver of our industry. It's, the luxury organizing market. Not everybody is going to be able to have an organizing system and maintain it like that. So we need to be thinking about the clients that we're actually serving. And if you're focused on that Pinterest perfection vanity display look, then your clients are going to end up walking away frustrated and not having a good experience, and you're going to wonder what happened because you were focused on the wrong thing.
Right, right. You want to focus, ask those open-ended questions, people. That's what I
Mhm.
always focus on during what I call our strategy sessions. It's our consultations, but asking those open-ended questions, getting to the root of what is the problem,
Mhm.
and understanding of this is how we're going to solve your problem, and be very upfront and very make a plan and make sure it's highly communicated. Above all,
Right.
highly communicated.
Right.
My goodness. So before we start to sign off, because we could talk forever, I feel
Yes, we
like
could.
we really could. What are your top 3 tips for those who are neurodivergent, who are looking to get organized? What are your top 3 tips?
Ooh, okay. First and foremost, declutter. It's not fun, and it can be a very overwhelming process, which will lead me into my second tip in a moment. But the best thing that you can do for yourself, if you already have trouble with focus in your environment, is to understand the connection between your mental clutter and your physical clutter. If your space is overflowing, things don't have homes, you don't have systems, you have too much, which is often the case in our society. There's a lot of inflow and not enough outflow. And so if you declutter, you free up that mental space to then be able to focus on your creativity, your projects, your passions. A lot of ADHD folks have a ton of things that they want to do, a lot of projects, a lot of interests, a lot of hobbies. But if those things are hindered by the fact that you have too much physical clutter, then you're never going to have the time, and you're never going to have the bandwidth to actually sit down and pursue those projects and those hobbies, those passions. So minimize your physical belongings is the first thing. The second thing is to seek accountability. That is what professional organizers are for. If you cannot hire one, then have a friend help you. But ultimately, I find that my clients, my ADHD clients that are the most successful are the ones who invest in their time and they value their time over their physical possessions. They're willing to invest their money and their time into hiring an objective third party, that professional organizer, the one who will set the system up, will make the process fun, will make it quick and efficient,
Mhm.
is going to be easier than somebody who's just coming in blind and doesn't really know what they're doing to try to help you. But either way, seek the right kind of accountability, because you're not going to be able to motivate yourself to do the work from within. It has to come from somewhere else. We're not meant to self motivate all the time. Those are like, if you read the book Willpower Doesn't Work by Benjamin Hardy, it explains the science of willpower and why it's meant for short bursts of time infrequently. That's the way that we as human beings are designed. So if we're constantly like slogging it and trying to motivate ourselves to do something we don't want to do day in and day out, it's going to be depressing, it's going to be exhausting, and all of these things. So find that external motivating factor, that person to come in and help and hold you accountable. And then the third thing would be to remember that whatever way in which you get something done is the best way to do it. So if it is not the most efficient system in the eyes of somebody else, that's fine. If you kind of have to go in a weird backwards way to get something done because that's the way that you do it, and you know that you have a success rate with that process, even if it's not the most time efficient, then do it that way, because that's the way that it gets done. You don't need to beat yourself up over not doing it, quote unquote, the right way all the time, like the way that everybody else does it. If you
Yes.
can do it differently. So those are my top three.
Oh my God. Progress over perfection all day long. Yes.
Mm-hmm.
Well, those were amazing tips. And I agree with all of those tips. And then
Woo.
reiterating that 1, 2, 3 rule. Really, really think about your space. And again, it's not always going to be perfect. Maybe you think it's going to be 2 steps this way that you want it. Maybe it's 2 steps that way instead.
Mm-hmm.
But that 1, 2, 3 rule is really nice to have a firm idea of general placement of things, even
Mm-hmm.
too, is where do I put the silverware in my kitchen? Well, is it 2 steps from where you're going to use it? Think about that. Where do you put the glasses? Well, if you're going to fill up a cup with water, should be 2 steps from the fridge.
Right.
So thank you so much. My last and final question is, what is currently cluttering your life? Everybody on that listens to my podcast knows I really think every single person in the universe has clutter. I have clutter. What is currently cluttering your life?
Absolutely nothing. I am perfect in every way, shape, and form. No, I'm kidding. You should see my office right now. I told Amanda before we started filming that I've got Christmas presents, Amazon boxes piled up that I'm staring at, that I'm trying to have my kids not go through. But um, looking at my desk right now, I have beverages cluttering my desk. I've got my chicory root tea here, and I've got my CBD beverage here, and I've got my
Are
water
you a
bottle.
beverage troll? I've
I
heard
am
this term recently.
totally, yes, I am absolutely a beverage troll for sure. So that's the immediate clutter that I've got going on. But beyond that, I am literally about ready to hire my staff. When we have slow seasons, I hire my staff to do projects in my own home that I don't have the bandwidth for. So they're going to come and do my garage in a little bit
Seriously.
because, yeah.
It's so wonderfully nice that, and it's so nice to hear that, Melanie, you are the second professional organizer. The podcast is still fresh and new, right? But
Well,
Melanie's the second professional organizer that has come on, that it also hires their team to come help them at their own house. Me being, I was the one that started it. Kim a couple episodes ago did it too, and now Melanie. We just hire our team to help us with our crazy lives, people.
heck yeah.
We are
Yeah.
not put together all the time.
No. And honestly, like when you organize for your clients all day long, the last thing you want to do is come home and do it at your own house. Like, no, thank you. My team, the people I hire are better at organizing than I am. And I would much rather have their hands and eyes on my space and, because they know me and what I want. So I would happily spend that money so that I can go, do something, drink some wine or something,
Yeah. Yes.
have
Yes.
have a moment.
Have a moment.
Yeah.
Yes.
Have a solitary moment.
Oh my goodness, this was amazing fun. Thank you so much, Melanie, for joining us. And are those who don't know how to find you, how can people find you and learn more about you?
Yeah. Well, first of all, thank you, Amanda, for having me on today. It's been a blast. I always enjoy seeing your beautiful face and hanging out and chatting with you. Yes, the hair flip. There was
It's
a
from a
beautiful hair
past
flip.
employee. It's the hair flip thing. And
Yes.
she's listening. You know who I'm talking about.
Yes. You get to see the blue streaks fly. I love it.
Fly everywhere.
So you can find me on all the places. My handle is I Speak Organized. So you can find my YouTube channel, which has a handful of organizing tutorials, as well as a whole bunch of content for folks wanting to start or level up their home organizing business. I have a podcast called the Speak Organized podcast, which kind of piggybacks off of all of that. We mostly talk about organizing philosophy and running an organizing business. You can find my Facebook page, Instagram, TikTok, Pinterest, LinkedIn that I never use, but we're all over the place. And then of course my website is ispeakorganized.com.
Beautiful. Well, I hope that this episode, which is coming at you in January, I hope everybody who's listening to this is going to start their new year fresh and on a good, positive organizing note. So thank you and good night.